Welcome to the Savage Worlds GM podcast. I'm your host, Jared Savage Daily Gunning. Tonight's episode, talking SWADE again. This time with special guest host returning to the podcast and the live stream, Scott W, the Savage Cheerleader. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at SWGM Podcast. Go ahead if you like what we do, want to get behind the show, throw us a buck on Patreon, Savage World or patreon.com/Savage Worlds GM Podcast, and the YouTube channel and iTunes as well, Savage Worlds GM Podcast. Tonight, once again, talking SWADE with Dave, the Rules Man, Scott.
Hello.
Dustin, the Savage Zealot Smith.
What are you doing?
And Scott W, the Savage Cheerleader, a.k.a. Disavow.
I'm like a fucking narco cartel member at this point. This is awesome.
And if you're watching the show live, feel free to participate in the chat. We do bring those into the show and talk about them. So last week was our rantastic episode. I apologize right now to our viewers because some of that fever is still a little bit lingering, and I'm sure we're gonna hear some ranting about SWADE. So let's go ahead and kick this pick. Anybody want to have a particular topic in SWADE they want to talk about?
I just want to start out by saying, yes, as both Savage Worlds fans and licensees, we are aware the rules are still changing. And what we say on the show tonight, we might have to update in the future.
Right. I'll make sure I add an errata list to the podcast notes.
We're just gonna milk about 3 or 4 more episodes before we try to do something else.
Oh, well, you're just like Pinnacle then. Shots fired.
At least the show doesn't release in early access.
Oh, well, I like beta testing role-playing games that fund for $500,000. That's always good.
So, in all seriousness, though, guys, you realize that anything we say on the show tonight is based on, obviously, the information we have right now, the information you have right now. As things change, our opinions will change, as will yours. So, we all got to kind of adapt and overcome right now.
So let's talk about this because this came up in the green room. What do you guys think about the reintroduction of opposed strength roles in place of a lot of overdone athletics roles and calls for athletics roles?
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting choice. Yeah.
Well, in my rant, I'd actually said that one of the things that really stood out is that they leaned too heavily into athletics. That they made a lot of things athletics that didn't need to be, to kind of sell the idea of how great it was that they had this new skill that did these things.
Yeah.
You didn't need to. Athletics already did enough that made it a cool, unique thing. You didn't have to then give it extras. You didn't have to pile on top all these extra little things that it replaced. Just let it be its own thing and let those things still exist.
Well, what I don't understand is, and this is, again, and we talked about this, right? And this is, like I said, I've designed one major game. I designed another secondary game. I'm working on a third game now that has a whole different system. They're doing the, let me fucking hold your hand and show you how to role play. Because why, as a GM, I would use either athletics or strength, depending on the situation. If you tell me your character is trained in Greco-Roman classic wrestling, I'm sure it's not going to have you make you strength roll. Strength is more like raw brute forcing something. Athletics is that you're trained to do it. Okay, cool. Your character will use athletics. What about my character? Okay, Miss Molly, you're a fucking cheerleader who don't know shit, right? You're going to use brute strength force to try to fucking pin someone down to the ground. I don't know why that's not. I don't know why there's so much myopic focus in Savage Worlds in general, and they're just doing weird choices right now.
I think a lot of it is overcompensation for previous versions of the rules where it was, well, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? What about this? I think they're trying to kind of head everything off at the pass a little bit, and they're over-explaining just a bit.
They're hedging their bets. They're trying to say, this is the answer to those one-off extreme outlier situations by giving you samples in the book and stuff like that. And I think they've overcommitted on that, and they've lost a certain panache where the idea was, here's this basic framework of rules that the GM has to use at the table, but really ultimately the GM is going to make a lot of calls on the fly within that framework, so that your character with Greco-Roman wrestling versus the cheerleader, you're going to use 2 different skills to achieve the same thing.
Right. And what Scott just
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
What stands out to me though with that is that they're overcommitting, but then they're not following some of their own stuff. Like they said, skills are active. That's the thing you're doing. Yep. And traits or attributes are the reaction. So why would I ever have an opposed strength roll or an opposed athletics roll? Wouldn't I be using athletics, fighting, etc. as the active character and the reactive character be using an attribute? So it's their athletics versus my strength, or their fighting versus my strength, rather than an opposed strength. That's where these sudden changes to me are broken in a way that seems like they're half thought. And honestly, I mean, not to say anything out of turn, but Shane worked through the holidays, guys. He didn't spend time with his family. He spent time with these rules trying to come up with some solutions based on all that feedback. And what we're getting is not Shane putting 3 to 6 months worth of thought into this. It's Shane sitting up at night when he should have been spending time with his family over a holiday weekend trying to come up with the solution. And I think that's where we're seeing some of these incongruities in what we have right now.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, there's got to be that overwhelming pressure to, words are hard. Not parrot.
Dumb it down.
No, not dumb it down. When you overextend or serve to somebody, it starts with a P. I can't remember the name of the freaking word.
Pontificate. Yeah.
No.
Not pander. Not
pandering.
Yeah. So that was Scott.
Woo! Ow, that hurt. So I think there's this a little bit of a pandering and pressure to do so when you have a Kickstarter that's over $500,000. I think there's this pressure to like, okay, oh God, I got to give them what they want. Oh God, I got to get what they want.
I don't even think it was pandering. I think like going back off what Dave said, it's like they're just like, I mean, I'm going to say it. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I feel like things are just getting thrown at the wall here. Will this stick? Are they going to like this? Is this going to hold up?
Yeah, well, according to Kickstarter, this is the fucking last change because they said quite clearly they only want to worry about grammar and spelling and shit now. So the dumb shit that's in here is in here. And there's some really stupid shit in here. A katana is not a fucking two-handed sword. Every piece of Japanese art, it's not. The
katana actually is designed as a two-handed
weapon. It can be used two-handed, but the fucking daisho set clearly seen in a multitude of samurai art throughout the ages of Imperial Japan countermand that the katana is only a two-handed weapon.
I'm not saying it has to be used with two hands, but it is designed as a two-handed weapon.
But now it's a two-handed weapon, and it's either two-handed or you're fucked, which isn't how the katana is designed. It's designed to be paired with a wakizashi.
Yeah.
So they've been – I don't know who's doing their weaponry. Like the M2 Browning having snapfire is fucking retarded.
It's the same thing as the fact the longsword traditionally in every RPG that's fucking ever existed is not a longsword.
No, not at all.
Arming sword has been sold to every gamer on the planet as the longsword, but it's not. A longsword is absolutely what we would consider a two-handed sword in all of gaming.
Yeah, it's
a two-handed sword that actually existed was a punishment weapon that was carried into combat by soldiers who had fucked up.
I just don't understand. Well, you got the Flamberga of the Germans, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a massive weapon, 6 foot at least, designed to be two-handed, but it was designed to take the heads off pikes and the heads off the pikemen. So this shit exists. It's just I don't understand what some of these like I said, Ghost Ops, I'll turn to you asshole. The kid doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to guns, and yet we're seeing some of the same shit. Like they changed the Derringer to the more common Remington 41. Get the fuck out of here. No one knows what a Remington 41 is unless you're a gun nut. But everyone who's ever grown up in America knows what a goddamn Derringer is.
And let's be fair, even if we're not talking about whether or not you're a gun nut or someone who's watched any popular culture, what is the absolute very first thing any of us expect Pinnacle to release under SWADE as a actual setting? Deadlands. Where are you going to find a fucking Derringer?
All facts, man. Oh no, you're going to find a Remington Model 41, son.
So let's talk real quick then about readying actions in case we didn't get enough of that last week. Go ahead, Dave. I know you're itching.
I have nothing to say. I told you guys I haven't had a chance to actually look at a lot of the changes that dropped over the last couple of days since Monday. I am aware that they dropped. I have glanced over the list. I don't know what they changed to readying actions, but I will say if it's still in the form it was in last week,
I think it is
broken. And it's broken in a manner that it's broken in that Savage World setting rule style of broken that we see when someone says, hey, I've got this setting rule I'm going to run at my table and it's going to do X. And X is fine, but Y, Z, and the carryover into A, B, and C are all broken because you forgot that it all interweaves. And readying actions, having the ability to ready up to 2 items around as a free action, not that bad. Except when it affects things like disarm.
Sure.
Right. So let for those who may be new to the podcast or don't understand the nuance of what we're talking about, right? So let's talk about this. Drawing a pistol from a holster used to be an action. So if you didn't already have your gun out at the beginning of the fight, it was an action. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily. I mean, it takes 3 seconds? I mean, should that really be an action? No. But now if you can pick up to 2 weapons off the ground and fire them with no penalty, other than the offhand penalty, which is what the readying actions allows you to kind of do, up to 2 weapons, just pick them up off the ground. Then when I go to do a disarm maneuver where I specifically take time to do a called shot against your gun hand, and then there's
-6.
Right. to get you to drop the weapon, the end result of that is, woohoo, I succeeded in this impossible task to get you to drop the weapon, only for you to turn around and go, boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
It takes the teeth out of it. It takes the teeth out of this.
Now, I will say this. Depending on the way you read that rule, it could be stated that the disarm where you're knocking the weapon out of their hand, the free action would allow them to draw from the belt or a bandolier, but they'd have to make an agility check to actually grab it from the ground because that could be determined to be a difficult location. I think that's
a bit of a stretch.
That's a stretch. You're relying on the idea that the GM who wants to make disarms useful at his game is going to enforce that, and it also slows down play. Rather than just saying, hey, it takes you an action to reach to your feet and pick that up, you're now instead saying, okay, let's stop play to make a dice roll to see if you can reach to your feet and pick that up. It just slows down the game.
Well, yeah, and a lot of this stuff that they've added to the game kind of seems to go on that route, right? Just kind of slowing shit down.
Yeah, I think we're losing a touch of the Fast, Furious fun aspect of this. And Chris touched on this last week, and I wish he was here to talk about it a little bit more, is that idea of the change to the Benny, where you can spend a Benny to get a different initiative card, where you're kind of putting this expectation that the GM is going to ask, is everybody okay with their initiative card before you start the turn initiative every single turn that anyone has a Benny sitting on the table.
Sure.
I think what's happening is we're just getting lost in the minutia. Like, we are getting so obsessed with these tiny details. I mean, in the podcast, we've said it a million times. You could take all of the stats, you could just mark over the names of the weapons, and how many of them would say strength plus D4, strength plus D6, strength plus D8, damage is 2D6. Like, we're turning this into these finite, broken down to these pointless details. It's turning into D&D. Stop turning it into D&D.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Actually, I think D&D's probably gotten easier to play than Savage Worlds has. To be honest with you. Yeah, 5th edition is pretty straight fucking forward.
I still think that Savage Worlds has D&D beat by a country mile.
It does for me because I won't use probably 2/3 of the shit in the book because all I need from Savage Worlds is the basic rules and like we were talking about, right? If your character takes a massive blow and you incapacitate, it's ridiculous that it was one. I guess you said that now they've changed it back to a GM decision. Prior to the change 3, it was what, a player decision?
No, it was no decision.
No decision.
If you took the fourth wound, your character became incapacitated.
Yeah.
You were knocked unconscious until you were healed of at least 1 wound.
Okay, so now it's the GM's decision, which is fine, but that it should never the old rule never should have been written in the first place. When you go down, that should always be that moment of what's awesome for our genre and for our scene, right? I don't need you to write a fucking rule for that. I don't need you to write a rule for a lot like grapple. Grapple's straightforward. It's going to be an opposed test between 2 fucking attributes more than likely, or athletics if you have it. And then we're going to go from there. I don't need finite rules. And I get it. Like I said, I've written a game and the I'll probably lose customers. The dumb fucking comments that you get is what I'm seeing are ending up now in their change log, you know? And this is what happens. And if I addressed every dumb fucking comment from people who are mostly unimaginative or just can't design a game or don't understand that simpler is better, this is what you get. I would have lost my fucking mind and it would have been a 300-page book.
It's like you have to, like people, oh my gosh. All right, just anecdotal moment. When I was working with kids before and we were working with development, I tried to bring in some coloring books, and there was some moment where somebody came in and says, no, we can't give the kids coloring books. And I'm like, why can we not give the kids coloring book? It's like, because the lines stifle their imagination. I'm like, the lines are what make it possible to work. That's the framework. That's like, okay, that's like saying, you know, the body of the car really hinders the engine.
Yeah. Are there any positive changes?
I think there's a lot of positive changes. And I think we're doing sort of the nerdy thing about, you know, trolling and complaining about the minor little things that really don't matter at the end of the day.
Well, and can I just add to that, Jared, for a moment and say, what else are we going to do? True. I think that's the other thing to stop and think about. Is this is not a question of like who's the old grognard or anything, but at this point, Pinnacle didn't have time to test these changes.
Not at all.
From the time they released the previous version to the time they released this version, and none of the community has had a chance to test all of these changes. You might have gotten to play a game and gotten to test. Let's be very generous and say your GM was going out of his way to try to include everything from that list. You are maybe able to test half the changes in the time that this current set of rules have been out. Yeah. None of us can say definitively if it works. All we can give is a first blush reaction to it. And at this point, we're going to be negative because this is something that doesn't look like it's going to work. And we know we had something that did work.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the first reaction to, well, wait a minute. Range combat's only target number 4? That's broken. Until you actually play it, go, okay, no, wait, it's not broken. That actually makes sense. It works.
Well, go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a number of the changes I think that are in the book that people are not necessarily focusing on are a lot more ethereal. They're a lot more subtle changes to the book and the rules than we're paying attention to. I'll tell you a great change that I used in we're play testing Dead End with the new rules right now in preparation for it, beta testing it. And the idea that you can use support to essentially do a cooperative role based on the narrative situation instead of you have that skill or don't have that skill is a tremendous change and a great change. So, like, you can have two characters where, well, I'll just give you an example. One character's driving and doesn't have a lot of skill at it, is facing a lot of negatives. And everybody goes, well, I'm going to do a notice roll to point out, hey, look out for that. Oh, look out for that. I'm going to look out for obstacles. Great. Make that roll. Oh, I'm going to do a common knowledge roll because I'm from this area. I'm going to find him a shortcut. I'm going to do a common knowledge roll using driving. Even though I can't drive the car, both of us can't use driving, I'm going to use it to tell him, hey, here are the tricks with this vehicle that you're working on. Oh, so you're shifting.
Double clutch. Or...
Yeah. Don't forget the double clutch. And it works. It works tremendously well.
It did. Yeah.
Well, how come people weren't doing that? Because that's how I've always run Savage Worlds.
And you know what, Scott? It was actually recommended in Mystic Thrones had a book a while back called Ultimate Guides to Character Creation. Yeah. And they had that in there. They had complementary skills that were a part of it. And yeah, I'm just like, I've always run it the same way too. Like, if it makes sense, roll with it.
Yeah, I just run it that way.
But the rules are not written that way.
We said you could only make a support roll.
Right. But I know
roll back then.
But I know when bad rules are in front of me.
Same skill.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a stupid fucking rule.
I'm not guidelines.
Good, bad, or otherwise. I think we all agree that it plays better the way it is now, and that this is a good change. But at the same time, like I can say I've said on this show that was the rule because that's what the book said.
No, absolutely, yeah.
That's one of those things that's the thing I'm kind of known for. It doesn't matter how I actually play it in my personal game. Sure. If I'm asked what the rule is, I'm going to tell you what the book actually says about the rule.
Right, yeah.
Otherwise, I'm misguiding you to play the way I play, which doesn't give you the opportunity to choose to say, well, no, the rule reads well, or no, I want to do this other thing with it. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the actual factual answer.
Right. Well, I think the other thing with this too is also, so for example, I'm coming in new to Savage Worlds as a player, and I want to devour this rule book and understand how the rules work. Sure. That's a great thing to codify in the rules so that I am now as a player thinking of options, things I can do. Instead of going, well, I don't have that skill. I don't have that skill. What can I do? I don't have that skill. Oh, wait, you can do a support roll. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot I can do a support roll. Hold on a second. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do that.
That's fair. I think the hobby has been dumbed down the last 20 years. But I've always believed that. When I got into gaming in 1984, and it was people you played with were triple-digit IQ no matter what, and it was all engineers and scientists and super nerds. And you had to be fucking smart because you were going to get sarcastically mocked at the fucking table. And now we essentially have fucking the Care Bear Beanie Baby fucking millennials that are now interested, right, as hipsters in this hobby. And this is what we get now is some weird shit.
Because it's retro, right?
Yeah, because it's retro and they want everything called out. Because like someone said it in the green room, I think it may have been Dustin. It's like everything has to be spelled out for you or it's not fair.
Yeah. And that's the denigration of not only the hobby, but of the collective psyche of the individuals that compose the hobby. We can't demand that everybody be stupid. We have to set a standard of intelligence.
Deus Volt.
Deus Volt!
There it is. You're hitting my Jared Holt. Fucking Savage Worlds GMs confirmed. Alt-right. I'm out of here.
Don't beat around the bush, Dustin. Tell us how you really feel about it.
Nope, because as soon as he stands up and starts swinging his one arm up, be like, I have a plan.
So I think the other thing we have to keep in mind as far as like where the changes are good is things like streamlining skills really does make sense. The knowledge changes alone. I don't have to worry about having somebody sit down at the table and name some esoteric bullshit knowledge that they personally have that they want to quote fun facts about during the game. Like, your Wiccan girlfriend who sits down at the table and wants to quote every herb under the sun while doing survival checks instead of, just taking common knowledge and rolling it to see if you can get a bonus to your healing check. I mean, come the fuck on.
Actually, Belladonna, when picked under the new moon, waxing in Aquarius is not going to have the effect that you need. Oh man,
I'm so fucking myself a couple days in doghouse, but fuck it.
I'm so fucking jaded.
Well, and I think a lot of the reaction to the new changes to the rule, a lot of these, this edition took the idea of let's play cinematic role playing and turned that knob way the fuck up.
Critical Role. Oh, fuck.
To a certain extent, I think we're going to hear even more. It's only good for pulp because of some of these changes.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, having just done a fucking complete rewrite of Dead End from start to finish, because, well, new rule system to lay it over top of, the new rules can be pretty fucking nasty. Like, I didn't have to do anywhere near as much as I thought I was going to have to make Dead End, stick it in, twist it, and then break it off at the hilt and leave you with an infected wound. That was already supposed to have been like the dark side of Savage Worlds. And I actually removed setting rules from our book rather than having to add or change things. Because there's stuff in the book now that makes Savage Worlds hurt.
Sure. So here's a question. Like, and I this is rhetorical. But this feels like it was rushed. The whole thing. They didn't test it. They couldn't possibly play tested a lot of this shit like they're going to claim they did. And not this many changes.
I think it's play tested up to the point that the alpha went out to licensees months ago. Yeah. I think everything since then, we start to get into the more questionable, how much has this seen of development and testing? Yeah. And that's where I almost wish the rules that are seeing changes didn't show up until the printed edition comes out.
Yeah.
That we actually saw that period of time used to bring it in-house, have the licensees really throw some playtesters at it, have the people listed in the book as playtesters really throw some hours at it, and see if this works, you know, especially like all the period of time we've had over the holidays where they've been redesigning. Take another month and let all of your playtesters sink their teeth into it. Make sure those changes are good before revealing them. Because now that you've revealed them, let's say one of the playtesters, one of PEG's actual playtesters, you know, we all know Chris Landauer from their podcast is listed in the book multiple times, apparently, because people really like to comment on that.
Fuck that guy.
He's one of the playtesters. Let's say in 2 weeks, Chris finds something that's dramatically wrong with one of these in playtest and submits that to PEG. Sure. Now what do they do? Because that rule is now publicly available, and you end up releasing yet another rule change. To a certain extent, I think what I'm seeing is probably that chase change, where at the beginning of the Kickstarter, here's chases. And then halfway through, here's another chases. And a week later, here's another chases. Yep. It's like, well, wait a minute. Which one of these is actually the chase rules? It started to feel a little hectic. And I think that energy, that hectic energy of all those frantic changes has carried over into what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some people are uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Anything in chat? Anything we want to bring up from the chat?
There's a ton of shit going on in chat. They're all talking shit about Jared specifically, I think.
I know, right? Ever since I lost the beard, I lost all the respect. What can I tell you? Well, all of it. What little I had.
You look good. You look good. I like it.
It was your mojo, man. You cut off your mojo.
Nice.
Yeah, I got rid of Gandalf. Wasn't good. Let's see.
Talk about the drop. Oh, Jared doesn't get respect. See.
Yep.
Talk about the drop. Yeah, that was a different one. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you know, I'm going to say this from a GM perspective. That is a player favorite. Do I get the drop? Do I get the drop? Do I get the drop?
You need them numbers, son. It's an automatic raise. God damn it.
That's +4 and +4 damage, right? Because I have the drop. Dude, you don't have the drop. Well, I snuck up on the guard. No, you snuck up on him. You get to go first. That's your bonus for sneaking up on him.
That's actually something that they talked about in Deluxe is the difference between active and passive sentries. Like you get the drop when someone is a passive sentry when they're distracted, but if they're an active sentry, they're already on guard.
Yeah, they get a bonus. Bonus stealth roll. Yeah. Hardly used rule from Deluxe. Absolutely. But yeah, I like the idea that we're maybe codifying in the rules that, hey, you get the drop on one of those actions, not all three.
Well, I love how like you would have people that it's almost like one of those comedies where they come in and they knock over all the pans and they like break the glass and they do all that kind of loud, obnoxious noise. And then they're like, do I get the drop? No, you don't come in like a bull in a china shop and expect people to be surprised. Are you sneaking up on someone who's deaf? You do not get the drop if you blow something up.
Hey, I mean, at least scale now is a negative modifier to, or is a modifier to stealth. Because I'm here to tell you, those stealthy fucking giants were gonna get the drop.
Was that thunder?
Yeah, it's thunder.
God,
definitely
man.
thunder.
I love how in Savage Rifts that they actually had to put under the iconic framework of robot armor pilot that you cannot sneak up on somebody in a giant robot suit.
Well, there goes Rifts players.
Can you just imagine like Gundam XGQ on the tiptoes just trying to come on.
Sure. Because you guys have come up with sound dampening technology, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, you don't know. They can hover.
Yeah, you don't know me.
Everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'll play Savage Worlds, obviously, but maybe, I don't know.
I still have not had an opportunity to give the chase rules a fair shake.
No, those are still really weird. Like, I was just looking at those. I'm like, dude, I still don't know what's wrong with them and why they can't capture chase rules properly.
I still think the best version of chase rules I've ever heard was presented by you.
So think me or Jared?
That whole the deck of events.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That you just laid out and you like lay out 5 cards and you turn it up and that event happens to everybody. Everybody has to react to it.
It's just so much easier, so much fun. I put that shit in the game, the first game that I wrote, and that probably had some of the highest praise. Is like something similar to that. Is like, oh, this is really fucking cool. I'm like, yeah, give someone a choice, make a roll. Like, cool, here's the obstacle you got to clear. Awesome, congratulations. What happens when we fail? Well, we'll talk about that when you fail it.
Yeah, I don't need to codify those things. Let's have the fun of discovering this together when something happens. It's the whole. And we've had this conversation on the show before. That idea that failure isn't always brutal, epic, horrible, crippling.
No, yeah.
My character jumps from his horse to the train. Okay, well, you failed your agility check to do so.
Oh, so you fall under the wheels of the train and it cuts you in half and blood and gore goes everywhere.
No, maybe you got a little of fatigue. Maybe you're being dragged by the train. You have to make another check to actually pull yourself. I don't know, but let's discover that together. And here's a novel motherfucking idea: cooperative storytelling. So I tell you, here's the situation of the dice roll you have to make. You tell me what you're trying to do and make the dice roll, and then everyone at the table comes up with a story about what that dice roll means. Yeah, it's my job as the GM to determine what the dice roll means mechanically.
Yeah.
But it's our job as a table to determine what that dice roll meant narratively.
Yeah, like I don't have a hard time at all. It'd be like a player, especially if they're new, they're like, well, I'm going to stab him. Or, then someone's like, hold on, here's what you could do with that, right? And then they say, "Can I do that?" I'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fucking awesome. Let's go through that." And here's what happens mechanically in the game. But there are people who are so opposed that, "Shut up, bitch! You're not in the room." I'm like, "Oh my god, Jesus Christ, who cares?"
Yeah, your character's not here, so you don't get to say.
Yeah.
Right. But you're still a player at the table, watching and witnessing as an audience member, right? You should absolutely be able to comment.
Jared, you and I have had to do this before, where I ask you what your character is going to do, and Scott starts saying what your character is going to do, and I have to shut that shit down because it's not Scott's place to roleplay your character. But when your character does something and some dice come up, and Scott goes, "Oh shit, son! You just discovered that Ruben's character was actually murdering people behind the scenes. He really wasn't, because it was a critical failure, and it's the greatest idea in the game that's ever come up." Yeah, I'm going to go with what Scott suggested because it made the game better.
Yeah. Yep. I see some of these changes in some of the rules, and like we beat this horse is fucking glue now, but I just think they're removing some of that from the game. Well, but as you guys said, rules is written. I think they're removing some of that flexibility from the game.
Well, I think they're trying to avoid some automatic I win buttons too.
True,
from less experienced GMs who can't go, shut the hell up.
True statement. And I get it. Like I said, it's a fucking headache. I mean, the new system I'm working on, it really relies on players, and I had folks who have role played for a pretty good while, and they were mystified when it was their turn to say shit, do shit. It was just like, I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? But so I remember they're getting ahead in front of that. Is this how Shane gets the forums to shut the fuck up?
So Dave Martell asks, specifically to what we're talking about right this moment, do we think that this is going to lead into an edition war?
No, because Savage. Oh man, I'm not. Never mind.
No, say it, motherfucker.
Because here we go. I love everyone. Savage Worlds fans are like fucking cultists, and there's nothing that can come. I could put my dick in a box and say Savage Worlds compatible, SWADE, and dipshits would give me $200,000 to kickstart it. That's the problem with Savage Worlds, the community. I'm sorry. I know you guys are working on a product. I'm going to back it because I feel bad. But Savage Worlds it's a fucking cult. It really is. And I get it. It's a fun game. But not everything deserves the high fucking praise and the money. A lot of it is fucking garbage. It just is. So no.
But hold on. I'm going to say this.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm just going to add to that. Right, I'm just going to add to that. That's not an issue specifically with Pinnacle. That's all role playing games, right? That's Fantasy Flight games.
No.
I think Scott's onto something when he says that it's more of a cult environment here. Mm-hmm. I think nerds in any hobby are ultra passionate and go after whatever it is they're a hobby enthusiast of. But in Savage Worlds, you see this almost like I have to go tell it on the mount fervor to spread the word of Savage Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I won't say I disagree. I'm not saying I disagree.
I mean, how many Savage Worlds Kickstarters have failed? Only one, and that was because the dude got fucked by the rules, right, of Kickstarter, and he had to go to Indiegogo. And that's the only one I know of.
Charles White.
There have been maybe 3 or 4. It's just whenever they fail, you don't hear about them.
No. But I've seen shit for Fate not do well. Definitely not where we boast, funded in fucking minutes. I mean, that's a big dick swinging. So, I mean, I get it. It's a fun game. But yeah, no, there won't be an edition more because, I mean, you might see some people who are like, well, I'm not playing these new rules until they get sorted out. But no, there won't be an OSR of Savage Worlds.
Plenty of errata. I think we will see plenty of, Clint answering questions on the forums for quite some time to bring things to where they were in Deluxe, where everyone kind of has the same idea of what the rules mean. I think we're going to see quite a bit of that for a bit. There's going to be the upheaval of it's the new shiny thing that everyone has to play with and get to know. And I saw this on, I think it was the Wild Die they were talking about, or no, they were on with the Digital Dungeon Master, and they were talking. Eric brought up the idea that he's finally in a spot where his co-hosts on the show aren't fewer years in than him. That, you know, he had like 10 years of experience with the previous set of rules, but like Gary only had 2, and I believe Harrison had only had like 3 or 4. And now they're all at year 1 because it just came out, and it is new enough that none of them know what they're doing with it the way they used to, and they all have to relearn it. And I think that's a good thing for the hobby. We're all going to be in that flux though of it's the new thing, and we all have to learn it for a while. And I think there's going to be so many people, but I don't think we're going to see an addition or come out of this. I think instead we're going to see a lot of errata. We're going to see a lot of clarification on the forums. Different from what it was in the previous version. The previous version, the clarification in the forums was the rules kind of read like hot garbage, and I don't understand what they say. What does this actually mean? And Clint having to go in. Now they've taken all those Clint explanations, put them in the book, and it reads really well, and you know exactly what it means, but maybe you don't agree with it. And Clint had to give some. You're seeing a lot more this time around. This is why we made this change. Descriptions rather than this is how it actually is supposed to work. You're hearing a lot more of this is what we were thinking versus no, this is what we were actually saying.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the biggest reason why we're going to see so much in the forums is we're going to see a lot of explanation going forward. And also, Shane has said he only has like 2 or so more editions in him of the game. He really doesn't see much more evolution. He wants to obviously give time and years the ability to mold it, but he doesn't see the game needing multiple new additions.
Yeah. Oh fuck! I was listening to Dave. I got mesmerized. Dave, you gave me a really good idea, but I'm not going to mention it. I have a really good idea to prove a few points. I'll talk to you after this.
All right.
Fuck. No, I got a new project.
Jot that shit down a notepad so your old mind doesn't.
I also am going to write under a pen name so no one can be like, that cock smoker said fucking.
All right. Do we have anything else? I mean, we're coming up on 8, and I don't necessarily think that there's any spectacular new ground to cover
right now because it's in flux.
Yeah, so many things are changing.
It did come up in chat. The new arcane background changes.
Yeah,
I really like the shift away from arcane background superpowers to gifted. I really liked that change.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like where that leaves superpowers. I think that the superpowers companion is still an overinflated, dice-heavy pile of crap that just kind of loses the focus of the game and starts just throwing more and more dice at it to make it sound super. But at the same time, I think Gifted is a great addition, and I like the change to power modifiers. I like the idea that a fireball is always fiery. I don't have to pay extra power points to make it so, but I can pay extra power points to make it bigger or make it hit more targets or whatnot. I think that's really nice.
I like the power modifiers. Thank you, Pinnacle, for adding those. Those are a nice addition.
I got a question, but it's been a while since I've read the fucking book, so now I gotta look at something on trappings. Fuck it, I'll just ask. I don't really care. I'm a grown ass adult. Can you now change the trappings freely?
There is a edge.
Get the fuck out of here.
Benefit to do that.
Why?
And I believe even with the edge, it still costs additional power points.
That's so fucking retarded.
And the idea being that when you paid for that power, you paid to be learning it to do a certain way. Like your Johnny Storm from your Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. Flame on, motherfucker. It's not the same as ice on, motherfucker.
But it's a superpower. If I'm a wizard, it's just fucking annoying. If I'm a wizard, I'm trained in the arcane arts.
Well,
I don't need a fireball. Sometimes I need an ice bolt or water or something else.
Because wizard is the exact edge that does what you're wanting to do.
I'm gonna put a gun in my mouth.
Okay, trappings, if I'm reading this right, trappings have no effect on game anymore. They're just there for atmosphere and theme. Like they're strictly cosmetic.
It does actually say, like, if you use a lightning power on somebody standing in water, you get the conductivity. If you use fire, it's always fiery. The trapping always adds the old trapping effect, basically.
Right. If you play my game, your trapping will matter if it needs to, and I'm not making you spend a fucking edge to be able to change up your fucking spells unless the genre or the setting would dictate.
Now, to be fair, I actually like the change to Wizard only because the old version of Wizard was completely useless.
Yes, true.
Anytime you had the no PowerPoints setting rule in play.
Yeah, you were fucked.
You suddenly, oh, look, I can take this edge that has no effect because I didn't spend any PowerPoints to get back because of raises I made on the roll. No, it just doesn't work that way. So that was a mess under the old way. So I like the change to Wizard. I actually like what it does. I disagree with Scott a little bit in this case, but then again, that's where you're the GM of your fucking game, and you choose the world it's set in. You decide whether or not that is an appropriate thing, or as Jib likes to say, if everyone's taking it, just make it a setting rule.
All fucking facts. I mean, I get the point, right? If you've learned, fist fucker's fiery flame, I get it, right? But, and I'll take a poll from the audience. I have yet to see any Savage Worlds group go that route and actually name their fucking powers something unique other than I have bolt and I shoot butterflies that sting you.
Hey, Jared, have you ever seen a pre-gen in one of my games that doesn't have named powers?
That's good.
That, and I will also say this: I, as a GM, demand you to name your power when you take it.
That's good. That's fucking positive. It's just out here, never seen it yet. And
we'll get into a game and go, okay, I want to be a wizard. Great. So you pick a power. Oh, I'm gonna take bolt. Okay, great. Put parentheses bolt as a rules reference so you can see how it looks. Now tell me what the name of that power is.
All fucking
and
facts.
What does it look like when you do it?
Yeah, in that case, like I'm not a hard ass, but I just disagree with trappings being this immutable fucking thing.
Well, it's like, well, and here's the thing too. So you have to start somewhere as a rule and say, okay, this is how this works. The thing with Savage Worlds though too is you're not, if you don't agree with that, you're not stuck. It's not like, oh, I'm fucked. I can't ever change it. I have to do it this way. There's also this rule called setting rules. Change the shit to make it match what you need to do.
Absolutely. All arcane fucking users have the wizard edge for free. They're done.
Sure.
Setting rule.
Or, hey, here's a setting rule. You start with knowledge occult. You start with, occult and a D4 because you're this kind of wizard community race, whatever.
Yeah. If Pinnacle can be convinced that every human being in existence has the D4 athletics, every mage is gonna have fucking the wizard edge.
D4 spellcasting.
I'm sorry. I've seen a lot of you. Not a lot of gamers have D4 athletics. That's not real. That's fucking fake news. Yep.
All right. Well, before Scott costs us our license, I think we'll shut it down.
Good luck. Go with Jesus.
So until next time, this is Jared Savage at a Gunning for Dave, Dustin, and Scott saying keep rolling and stay savage. It's all love, baby.